This video, we're gonna be reacting to 1,000 flies versus a Venus flytrap.
This is 50 Venus flytrap plants, and in this video, I'm gonna put
50?
1,000 flies in the same container as them. Will the sheer number of flies trick the traps, causing them to close, or are the flies just simply cooked?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think they might be cooked.
This is 1,000
I'm curious.
fly larvae. Yeah,
Oh
might
my
look
goodness.
extremely nasty, but
That
over
is
the next week,
gross.
as long as I feed them food, they should all turn into flies so I can do this test.
So while we
That
wait
is
for these guys to turn into
disgusting.
flies, obviously I have all of these Venus flytraps. But I also have tons of other carnivorous plants that you may have never even seen before. Meaning I'm gonna be able to do
Oh, wow.
tons of different tests in this video. It's gonna be super cool.
And for test number 1, I want to show you guys the smallest Venus flytraps.
Now, you know it may sound stupid, but I promise you how they work and catch insects is actually really insane. Let me show you how
It
they
looks
work.
insane.
Yeah, it's not a joke how small these things are, because when compared to normal Venus flytraps, the jaws are about 10 times smaller. And in fact, they're
10
kinda cute, to be
times?
honest.
They are kind of
Since these are
cute.
minuscule, the normal prey I feed in my videos is not gonna cut it. Yeah, sorry cricket, you get to live another day. That's why instead,
Oh,
I got
wow.
literally the smallest thing available.
These are flightless fruit flies, which if you've seen my channel before, you know they're pretty much the most useless animal. Cause seriously, bro, how are you a fly
They're
that doesn't have
useless.
the ability to fly? That doesn't make any sense. But anyways,
Yeah,
I put
that
the
is pretty
smallest Venus
useless.
flytraps in the testing enclosure, then I put one of these flies inside to see if he'd get caught. Start the timer. Now this fly didn't waste any time, because it immediately walked straight up to one of the Venus flytrap
Oh,
pots,
no.
and then started to walk all over the tops of the jaws, absolutely risking his life. You may already
Yeah,
know this, but
literally.
normal Venus flytraps work by having these super tiny trigger hairs inside of them that when a bug or something touches them, it snaps shut. But these traps
Oh
are
my
obviously
goodness.
the smallest in the world. Because of that, they have extremely small trigger hairs. And I'm talking so small that if I zoom in like 100x on this footage, they're so thin, my
You can
camera
barely
can't
see
even
it.
pick them up. And I guess the trigger hairs were quite literally so thin that every time this flightless fruit fly walked inside the jaw of a trap, the jaw didn't close at all, and the fly was able
Oh
to
my
just walk
goodness.
out. I mean, it kind of makes sense. These flightless fruit flies weigh about 0.0003 grams. So yeah, I guess the traps quite literally can't even be triggered by how light their weight is.
Yeah, clearly
so
the fruit flies
tiny.
aren't gonna work. So instead, I got the world's smallest cricket instead to test. Let's see if this works.
Oh, those are
anyway.
some tiny crickets.
Oh boy, let me just tell you, things were a lot more interesting this time around. Because once again, the cricket walked straight up to one of the trap pots and started climbing all over the tops once again. But this time, quite literally within 30 seconds, the cricket happened to put his face up to the lip of one of the Venus flytraps. You
Oh,
may
no
also already know
way.
this, but these plants produce a special kind of nectar around the lips of their jaws to lure insects in like this cricket. And you can see it was working pretty well because this cricket was just absolutely slurping this
Oh, he's
nectar
chomping
up. He was
down.
getting a bit too distracted because he then stepped into the trap, probably stepping on
Oh,
the micro
no.
trigger hairs, which then caused the jaws of it to close. But the cricket was too fast and he was barely able
Oh,
to
he
make it out
escaped.
with his life. Dang, that was a close call, but you can see
That
how
was
quickly that
close.
can all happen. And yeah, don't worry guys, because there's only a few minutes later when the cricket did the same exact thing. He walked up to another
Did the
jaw,
same
walked
thing?
straight into it, and yeah, this time the trap closed on him while he was starting to walk out, leaving half of his body now
Oh,
sticking out
no.
of the trap. Even though these are the smallest Venus flytraps in the world, they trap insects nearly just as well as the fully grown ones. It's pretty interesting. And yeah, while I wait for those 1,000 flies to
interesting.
hatch so we can do the final test, in the meantime, I want to show
Those
you some
fly
other
larvae
insane
are
carnivorous plants that you may
disgusting.
have never seen before, with the second one
What is
being
that?
sundews.
Yep, everyone
Sundews?
knows what Venus flytraps are, but not everyone knows what a sundew is. But they're actually
What is
pretty cool.
that?
Let me show you what they do.
So obviously, like fly traps, sundews are also a carnivorous plant. Except instead of having jaws, it has these long stems with these little red hairs on the top.
Oh,
of them.
wow.
But on each of these little red hairs is a special kind of sticky glue it produces that will make it so when a fly or any other insect touches it, it gets permanently stuck because of how sticky it is.
And when an insect
No
gets stuck on here,
way.
the trap does something insane to be able to consume the insect, which I'll show you very soon when it obviously traps an insect.
So yeah, I got multiple of these sundew plants, and I even got this slightly different kind of sundew called an octopus plant. That will be cool to see if
An
this can catch
octopus
any insects
plant?
as well. So let's get these.
I
in
didn't even
the
know there
testing
were
chamber.
octopus
For this,
plants that
I think I'll be using a
existed.
cricket cricket once again because they're literally perfect. They can just climb up the side of the stems and yeah, just get stuck. This should be fun to watch. Let's put this dude inside.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, once again, I just started with one of these guys, but if this guy gets caught fast, I'll be adding way more inside of here. Anyways, so this cricket for the first minute kind of just wandered around the walls of the enclosure.
He's just walking around. He's just
Started heading
curious.
towards the sundews. Now you see,
Going on an
sticky that this
adventure.
plant produces is actually a type of nectar, which smells and tastes great to the insects. So yeah, just like how Venus flytraps lure insects into
a
their
trap.
nectar, these traps do the same thing. Because this cricket then decided to start climbing up the
Oh, he's
stem.
going
The only
up.
thing is though that he ended up stopping right before the sticky part, and that's actually because of his antenna. You see, crickets have these pretty long antennas that help them
Oh,
navigate
wow.
and detect danger before running into it, and this guy's antenna actually ended up getting stuck in the sticky nectar part.
No
Using its
way.
mouth, it was able to pull the antenna back and then started to lick all the nectar off of it. Yeah, and I'm not kidding, this cricket really just sat here for like 30 minutes, constantly
Oh, wow,
licking
he's-
his antenna, then
he's really
putting it
licking
back
that.
into the sticky nectar, and then licking it back up. He was kind of outsmarting this carnivorous plant and just getting
He
its
really is
nectar for free,
outsmarting
so I'm not
it.
gonna lie, I just tried to push him towards it with my tweezers since he clearly wasn't gonna do it on his own, and yeah, he just kind of ended up falling off.
Yo, what
Oh,
the heck? I was
no.
just trying to record that cricket and I just realized there's a jumping spider in here. Do you see that? It's
Oh my gosh, there is.
Is it stuck?
Yeah, this jumping spider just happened to wander into this enclosure by accident. I guess he was just living somewhere in my house. But since he was here, I figured I'd just watch him to see if he would get caught by the traps. And pretty quickly, he started to climb the stems of the trap.
He's
and
climbing
got up
it.
to the sticky part. But yeah, he was
Oh,
kind of too smart
wow.
for this trap too, and turned around the second he realized it was sticky. But it was pretty cool to watch this guy just jump around the plants. However, he never
Oh, that's
really ended
cool.
up getting trapped, and he ended up just climbing out of the enclosure.
All right, guys, I'm
Oh,
not
that's
gonna
a
lie.
smart
This
spider.
cricket, I've been trying to record him getting eaten for like 2 hours now. And every time, right before going on the sticky part, he just stops and cleans his antenna. And yeah, he just turns around and never actually
He's
goes on the
literally
sticky part.
outsmarting
He's too
it.
smart for this. So yeah,
He
let's
is too
take
smart.
this guy out.
Instead, I actually just got out the flightless fruit flies again, because apparently this is actually Sundew's favorite insect. And yeah, I just dumped a few on the sand, and it wasn't long until some of them started to climb all over the stems, and eventually started getting stuck all over the different sticky parts. I even went and just dumped a crazy amount of these flies all over the top of the Sundew plants
Oh,
to show you
wow.
guys exactly how cool Sundews really are. Because obviously, now you can see the sticky parts of the plants are just completely covered in flightless fruit flies. Now, if you're wondering
Yeah,
how this plant
literally.
actually eats the flies, well, this footage shows how. As you can see, it uses each of its red hairs to basically curl around the prey. And once all of those curl around it, the stem
No
itself
way.
also starts to curl around the prey. This will basically ensure the fly has a 0% chance of escaping, while the plant releases
Oh my
basically
goodness,
an
it's
acid
really just
to consume
curling
it.
around
Yeah,
it.
It's pretty brutal.
So yeah, it's pretty cool to see
That
these things
is
work.
brutal.
All these flies are just gonna turn into food for these plants very soon.
Alright, there's still one more major carnivorous plant type that I haven't shown yet. They're called
What is that?
pitcher plants.
Yep, this
Pitcher
plant
plants?
can
I think
also
I've seen
eat
these.
insects. And actually, how it does it is probably the most brutal out of all of them. Let me show you.
Yep, like I said,
Oh
these are
no,
called
that's
pitcher
not
plants.
good.
And similar to the last plant, they have pretty long stems that go up. But the difference is, this time at the top, there's this little trapdoor leaf thing that if you look is actually covering a hole that leads directly down to a pit of acid at the bottom of the
pit of
stem.
acid?
These traps have this little hole here that's lined with a super slippery nectar on the inside. So whenever an insect walks inside, they'll slip into the acid at the bottom, and yeah.
Oh
What's really cool is if you
no.
actually look inside of this pitcher plant, since it's kind of small and shallow, you can actually see the pool of acid at the bottom. And it actually looks like there's a
Oh,
couple
you can
more
see
flies
it.
and stuff in there, which it looks like it's actually already dissolving. So yeah, it'd be cool to see some crickets or something fall in these. Let's test it out.
I didn't even need
Let's
to
see
use an enclosure
this.
this time because I knew this was going to be an extremely fast test. Because immediately after placing the cricket on this first pitcher plant, it started to climb along the sides of the red pitcher. As you can see,
Oh, he's
the
gonna
inside
fall
of the plant
in.
is lined with these downward pointing hairs. This is to make it even more slippery and hard to escape. And yeah, it's kind of funny to see how fast this all happens, but the next time the cricket went to the opening of this plant, it straight up just slipped in right away. Nah,
Oh,
this
that's
dude had
not
no
good.
clue this plant has evolved over millions of years to just be able to eat them this fast. Yeah, and as you can see on this
Yikes.
footage that I recorded on my phone, he was now just sitting at the bottom of this pool of acid. Over the next
Oh,
few days, it'll
no.
dissolve him and turn him into nutrients for this plant to grow even stronger and larger. Nice.
And yeah, that's really all
Well,
there
that
is to
kinda
these pitcher
sucks,
plants.
but
They're not
that's
really the most
cool.
interesting thing
That's a cool
ever. I
plant.
actually have some great news, guys, because if you look in this container,
Oh
you can
my
see many
goodness,
of my
there's the
flies are
flies.
starting to hatch.
village. And that means we can finally start doing some massive scale Venus flytrap tests, and eventually test as many flies as I can against all of my Venus flytraps to see who wins. Let's start very simple though, with 5 Venus flytraps versus a single fly. And let's see if this fly can get trapped in under a minute. Now I know you may be thinking, bruh, Terragreen, I don't care about one fly, this is boring. Well, don't worry, because this literally only lasted like 20 seconds. Because immediately this fly started to crawl up the side of a pot, and of course he made his way immediately into a jaw, triggered one of the hairs, and it closed directly onto him. Yep, flies are basically the one thing Venus flytraps are the best at catching. I mean, it's called a Venus flytrap for a reason.
Anyways, I got the tank where the final test will be taking place, right here, obviously.
And I didn't waste any time. I just got out the flies that I've been hatching.
Look at all the flies!
I put them straight into this enclosure so we could get this final test started. Quickly, I removed the lid and started the timer. Let the test begin. Now, immediately, a couple of the flies started to fly out of the container, and others started to walk out of the sides. Now, there was something weird, though, because while the container had a decent amount of movement in it, only like 10 of the flies were actually leaving the container over the 4-hour time lapse here. Yeah, basically all the flies were staying in there. So I decided to just take the paper towel
they need to get out of there.
And tried to just shake off as many as I could onto the Venus flytraps. And obviously, this meant that a few of the flies were now scattered all over the traps and were actually starting to get trapped. But most of them were just being super inactive, barely moving, and not flying. I guess because they were just newly hatched flies, and it takes a while for them to become normal.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, guys. This is kind of a fail. Basically, none of the flies are flying
around.
It
seems like a fail.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish this.
But don't worry, because my YouTube friend Flytrap Films recorded a test with an insane amount of flies, super similar to this. And he wanted me to show you it. In it, you can see he has a Venus flytrap plant out.
That's a lot of flies.
And also a bunch of rotten meat in order to attract the flies.
Oh, ew, gross.
Really well, because instantly,
that's smart. They do love that rotten meat.
And you guessed it, started to get trapped. I mean, when you have this many flies, it's a given that tons are just gonna get trapped right away. And what's so crazy is that sometimes so many would gather on some of the jaws before they close, causing up to 6 flies to get trapped in the same jaw at the same time.
6 flies?
Flytrap Films himself has said that this is the most flies he's ever seen get caught at once. Also, some bonus footage for you guys. Hey, you remember those pitcher plants from earlier? Flytrap Films also did the same test with a massive pitcher plant to show you guys how effective these things are at catching flying insects. And this plant literally just looks like a vacuum cleaner sucking up all the flies.
It does look like a vacuum cleaner.
Is, because every time a flying insect flaps its wings above the opening in this plant, it creates a weird kind of vacuum effect with the wind, causing the bug to actually get pulled down into it. And yep, after not too much time, this thing just caught so many flies.
Look at that.
It's literally just starting to overflow. That is probably the craziest performance from a carnivorous plant that I have ever seen. Thank you, Flytrap Films, for letting me show you this footage. Make sure to check out more of his videos, guys, if you want to see more like this. His content is so cool.
Anyways, hopefully you guys learned something new about carnivorous plants in this video. And remember, guys, check out
the
brand new
Terragreen
limited plushies that just dropped. Remember, I only signed 25 of each of the limited edition trading cards.
So these flytraps are so cool, guys. Comment down below how cool this is.
TerragreenStore.com. Seriously, guys, thank you for watching the videos. It means a lot. And have a good day. Goodbye.